Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they truly hold up. Today, I'm holed up on our Season 6 premiere with Andrew in Louisville, Kentucky, and Kyle in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey.
Hi, Chase.
Greetings.
Great start. Andrew, how are you feeling these days?
Cold. It's cold as fuck. It hasn't been below like 25 degrees, or hasn't been above 25 degrees here in like 10 days. There's like 8 inches of ice and snow outside that hasn't melted, and I'm sick of it. Internally, like in my heart, I'm cold. Yeah, just keep me in your thoughts. I'm going crazy.
Yeah. That's not typical Kentucky weather, though, right?
I mean, it snows, but usually not 8 inches at a time, and it usually doesn't stay that cold for that long. Like normally there's a couple days where it's like low 40s or even like close to 50s, but no, not right now. No.
Yeah, I don't remember that being like that when I was in Kentucky either. It was, I mean, like we had that bomb cycle in that one year, but aside from that, like it's a fairly habitable winter. So for y'all to be that fucked in by ice right now is pretty.
I mean, the roads are fine, but like you've cleared off your driveways, but it's still all over the yard. If you haven't touched your porch, it's still there. There are like 15, 20-foot piles of snow and ice in every parking lot you go into. The salt is everywhere, and it's just fucking cold. Like it's just, I hate to sound like a little bitch, but I've been used to living in warmer climate and temperatures the past 5 years, and less than a month of moving back into this shit, we get hit with one of the worst snowstorms in like a decade. So it is what it is.
And I would say I'm still stationed here in Atlanta, Georgia, and it hasn't been fairly warm for a while. It's been really cold, but we haven't gotten the ice and the snow and all that other nonsense that really makes that situation a lot worse. So we're doing okay.
Yeah.
And a warmer day.
Well,
we were in the 50s today.
Aren't you lucky? I'm so thrilled that you got to experience that. Good on you.
You moved away from it. You had your chance to stay.
I guess you're right.
Yeah, so, I mean...
I guess that's my fault.
Yes, God's punishing you for your transgressions now with an ice storm in Louisville, Kentucky. But anyway, before we get started today, so to open up Season 6, we're looking at some animated classics. We watched Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Before we dive fully into this episode, Kyle, I want you to tell me a little bit about your energy levels today using mythological terms.
You know how Rumpelstiltskin was kind of like a weird fuck who just wanted weird shit from people, and I don't know, it was always about like Rapunzel's hair and like, you know, just really, really hung up on that one, like really autistic quality. Like I need the hair kind of thing. I don't remember all the bullshit, but I feel like Rumpelstiltskin right now. I feel like I'm hung up on one thing, and that thing that I'm hung up on doesn't really fucking matter. Yeah, there's also a little bit of like Hansel and Gretel that I'm feeling too. Hansel and Gretel really fucked up that witch. The witch was eating people, which I think too many people kind of like forget about, but they fucked that witch up.
So, it's like the country we're living in right now.
Yeah, I feel very much like I don't really care, and like I feel like the world is like testing itself right now to see how far it can go without people, like the whole FAFO thing, and I think we're in the find out stage right now, and I think there's gonna be like, you know, very much an eat the rich thing happen soon. So I'm very torn between feeling like an inbred imp and disaffected youth that steals things and leads to the death of an old lady.
Great. I'm so glad you're doing so well.
That was so eloquent. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
I went on a journey with that, so thank you.
I don't believe you, but I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
So we watched Atlantis, and there's no other way to segue it from here. But Andrew, I'm going to start with you. What do you remember about this movie as a kid?
I remember it when I first watched it. I felt like it was a little too mature for me. I don't know. I remember it being a little bit darker, a little bit, I don't know, more out there compared to some of other Disney stuff.
It did feel like it
I
was
remember,
more magical as a kid.
yeah,
This is how Avatar should have been.
yeah, take notes, James Cameron. It didn't have, to me, it didn't have the whimsicalness of, say, like a Pocahontas or like a Mulan or something like Hercules, even. It wasn't that far removed. And it's probably because it wasn't a musical. But I think I liked it. I remember liking it, but I remember it just not registering on that same level as some of those other Disney films from around that time. Liked it, but it was just a little, I don't know, a little darker from what my memory served. So
Yeah. It was 2001, right?
one, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I loved Indiana Jones as a kid and like any of that exploration kind of adventurer style of storytelling. I gravitated towards this movie. We went and saw it in theaters too. I remember my parents taking me to see it. I was enamored as a kid with this because this was kind of like an animated version of Indiana Jones, even though Milo, the main character, isn't as cool as Indiana Jones. He's kind of like I wouldn't even say lovable loser, but just kind of the underdog type of character.
he's a dork. He's a nerd.
Played by
You
Michael
know?
J. Fox, who doesn't love
Yes.
Michael J. Fox. So I kind of saw myself as kind of that nerdy character in real life. I was, kind of gangly little kid, so definitely thought of myself as a Milo wanting to explore the world. So I really loved this movie as a kid. I had it on VHS, watched it a lot. But it kind of was one of those movies that kind of came and went, if you remember.
Yes.
Felt like we were I was obsessed with it for like a brief period of time and then just never watched it again. And I don't know if that's because like in 2001 I would have been 10. I was slowly like maturing and about to be in like junior high 2 years from then. So it's like it was the end of my childhood, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that's actually true, but it felt like it. And it felt like this was at the peak of my childhood. Kyle, do you remember this movie much as a kid?
Oh, I remember watching it, but I don't remember what happened in any of it. I do remember it being like a very fun explorer centered, like, pretty straightforward plot. Nothing like to guess with, which is good for kids, I think. It can be good for adults too. And it has a very cool, unique, but also like familiar style, like art direction to it that is very much like, turn of the 20th century kind of exploration ish vibe that definitely I pick up on the Indiana Jones aspect of it for sure. But I think the animation style and the color palette they use is very well done, and that alone separates it from other Disney movies, I would say, of this time. The closest thing I would say, stylistically wise, that you could kind of compare it to would probably be a Tarzan.
Very much.
Yeah, because Tarzan was what, 2000 or 99? Like it was right around that era.
Yeah, I think they were both being made at the same time.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that late 90s Disney animation style where everything's so kind of exaggerated, but I don't know. We're going to have a guest on one of our episodes that is going to kind of shed some light on animation style, which is not my forte in film. Kyle, were you a big Indiana Jones fan as a kid? I know we talked about it outside the podcast.
Yeah.
And I know you loved James Bond. This kind of has a little bit of both in it.
Yes. It very much scratches both itches while also being more adventurous and more like fantastical, but in a realistic way, especially with the vehicles and the sets that they portray. I really enjoy that kind of Disney feeling, like Jungle River Cruise and the Swiss Family Robinson. It kind of hits on some of those vibes very much so, and I would agree. I think it has a little bit of everything in it, especially for a younger child that might not be able to understand some of the more adult themes, especially in James Bond. But it definitely has that kind of adventurous feel to it.
To like all the gadgets that they're using to like find the city. Like it just felt like it kind of played in so many different worlds, which as a kid, like that's what kept me watching it and rewatching it. I guess before we move forward too, we watched a lot of animated movies when we were kids. Most people did. Do you guys still enjoy animated movies a lot, or is it kind of something that you think of as like more of when you were a kid?
It depends. I guess it truly depends on what I'm watching. I don't know. I'm trying to think of recent animated movies or TV shows that I've watched. I mean, there are TV shows that are constant that are animated that I don't think will ever lose their touch with me. I don't know. Yeah, I think there are some that kind of miss the bar with me, but there are many that I could fall right back into and still enjoy. It's not something that I turn my nose up to or look down upon. I definitely still vibe with a good animated movie.
What about you, Kyle?
I can, yeah. If it's animated well and it's still like animation still does well to this day, then yes. But also like the themes of it, like it can't be too whimsical, it can't be too silly. That's why I think I vibe more with like the Pixar kind of thing, maybe some of the DreamWorks kind of stuff. Because those old animated Disney shit, absolutely not. Like there's no world in which I would like to sit down and watch The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast. Like, it's not going to happen. But stuff like Atlantis, yes, it's
I don't think Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast missed the boat. That's still like the '90s. That's not far off at all. Now, if you're talking like Snow White or something like that, or
no.
Bambi,
I would still
I mean,
say that those didn't work for me. Like I don't appreciate those the same way that I would appreciate in Atlantis. Just because the whimsy's not really there. I understand that they're whimsical, but they're too whimsical, and there's the romantic quality. As a kid, I was like
I
lost on that.
agree with you on the whimsical aspect. I do think aesthetically, though, I still think the animation is fine. Like it's not something that's like, oh, I can tell that's dated. Granted, I haven't seen Little Mermaid in a number of years, but I've seen clips here and there. I do think it looks okay. But yeah, that's a little too lighthearted. So I don't know. There's some nostalgic movie musicals, animated movie musicals. I already mentioned a few of them, like Mulan and Hercules. That I adore those.
And
Like
and
those are
that's
still
just and that's
those are
just
still
from
good.
our childhood. Like I can go
Yeah.
back and watch stuff like The Fox and the Hound.
Oh God, that kills me every
Yeah,
single
and I
time.
was gonna say, like to Kyle's point, they almost take themselves a little too seriously,
Yeah.
for folklore for children. I mean, that's heavy, heavy stuff.
Yeah. When I say it kills me, it's Fox and the Hound. Like that emotionally,
Right.
like it's an emotional journey. Like it's heavy. Like you said, it's sad. It's still I don't know. It still hits home. It's not a drag by any means.
Before we dive into our blow by blow, Andrew, how did Atlantis do?
So it had a massive budget,
Really?
like 120 million.
Jesus Christ.
Whoa.
Yeah.
There's no way it made its money back.
So domestic opening the first week was $329,000.
Ooh.
Domestic gross altogether was 86 million.
Oof.
And then altogether international, not altogether, but international 102 million. So worldwide altogether it was about 186 million. So it did make some back. It was a net of 66
Which
million in some.
that would be considered a failure
But
because like with marketing and everything, it probably
yeah,
lost money. But I
it
bet
probably lost.
I do remember merchandising for this movie. Like anything, if you have an animated kids movie, what do you get, Kyle?
Money.
Toys. So I remember the toys being a big thing and the
I do.
merchandising. So I imagine that they probably made some money off of that. I didn't have any of the toys as a kid.
I didn't either.
Remember the toys. I remember I might have had one or two. The guy with the chest plate rings a bell, and the mole guy. But aside from that, I don't think I had more than an action figure.
They had the submarine. Like I remember the submarine being kind of cool.
Submarine was pretty cool.
But I never had any of it. But again, this was me and Kyle are the same age, so this was like at the tail end of our childhood and probably the tail end of our toy playing era.
Yeah, it wasn't really. It wasn't really getting too much of that kind of shit.
Yeah, this was video game era for us. All right, are we ready to kind of give it the blow by blow, see if it holds up?
I guess.
See, Daddy.
I guess.
Andrew, you need some caffeine or something. You seem not ready for Atlantis, not ready for the long lost journey to
I had a
Atlantis.
really shitty end to my work day. It was pretty much slow for most of the day, and then I got hit with a whole bunch of stuff from like 4:40 on that just, I don't know, it pissed me the fuck off. So I've come down from that, but that put me in an awful mood.
Do you
So
need some athletic greens thanks to our sponsor AG1?
shit, this is awkward, but I've disavowed them.
Okay, great, because
Should I even
they've sent us a cease and desist letter from all the.
Okay, good. Thank God. I thought I was going to ruin the mojo we had with them, but I'm done with those fuckers.
No,
so.
I think we got to find a new sponsor that's not a sponsor. Blue Chew. Blue Chew.
I think Blue Chew. That's the most obvious one there.
We're in our 30s. Blue Chew is a good one, and target audience over here. Anyway, before we go full on into the blow by blow, Kyle, can you tell the audience at home, you're our resident historian, a little bit about the lost city of Atlantis and what you know about it to try to set this movie up?
So Atlantis was the only thing we really know about it is from Plato, and it was that every culture has a story of a great flood. That is something that you can find all across the world. It's noted biblically. It's noted in other areas of the world that have ancient cultures that have documented oral traditions, oral history, or written history. So there is very much a precedent for a lost city, but it's only really noted from Plato's writings. And it's actually cool because this movie opens up with a Plato quote. And it was something to the effect of like, when one foul swoop, Atlantis was swept into the sea. So basically what the realistic thing that might have happened with this was there's a place in this, and this has been debunked, but it's something to chew on. There's a place in the Sahara
out there.
The place in the Sahara, Andrew and I have talked about this. There's a place in the Sahara called the Eye of the Sahara. And you can see it in space. Apparently, it is a geological abnormality. But if you were to take sea levels, because sea levels were higher back before, this was way before Christ was born. This is a long time ago, possibly like 4,000 years or more, which also coincides with the Great Flood. And if you were to take sea levels back to where they were back then, the sea levels were like possibly 50 to 100 or more miles inland. So having something like a tsunami or a catastrophic flood would not be so out of the question for a place that far in the deep of the Saharan desert. Because you're probably like, well, it's in the middle of the fucking desert. No shit, that's not true. But it was probably, my thought is this. I like where they're going for it. I don't think that's where it was because there is no evidence of anything there. Now, there are some people who would say if it was like a catastrophic global event, water is the most destructive, powerful force in the world. There wouldn't be anything left of it. I don't know if I believe that. I do think that there is precedent for the city of Atlantis in terms of there being a great flood. But the technology that was said to be there, apparently they had massive hanging gardens, bigger than the gardens of Babylon. They had a way of harnessing energy through the use of sunlight. This is all stuff that Plato had documented briefly. And it's, again, like worth noting that they didn't really write shit down like that or conflate myth with reality as much as, and I know people are going to come after me for this, but as much as we would maybe do today with legend versus reality, the way that it's written from what I've seen, the context is very much like this is what happened, and this is a documenting of what happened at Atlantis. So the mystery of Atlantis endures to this day. We don't have any idea necessarily where it could have happened or when, but we do have a general idea of like, it was probably after the end of the first or the last ice age, technically, when water levels were a lot higher, and there was probably some kind of flood that led to the destruction, dissolution, and vanishment of Atlantis in general. So this movie is just going off the general theory of Atlantis, which is it's an underwater city and it's still around. I mean, maybe, but like 0.0001% chance that that's probably a thing.
Yeah.
crazy. It's just nobody possesses that.
Yeah, and Plato is not the origin of the Atlantis story. He's just where we get it from today through his manuscripts. But he was talking to an Athenian lawmaker named Solomon.
Yes.
Egyptian priest, I think, told him about Atlantis. And that had happened 900 years prior to that. So I think that was like 11,000 years ago.
Yes, a long time ago. This is before the pyramids were built.
Right.
At this time, there were still American lions, cheetahs, giant sloths, cave bears, saber-toothed cats. This was during an ice age, everybody. Like we're talking a long time ago.
Right. And it would make sense with it being in the Sahara because at that point in human history, the Sahara had the biggest lake in the world. And like Atlantis could have existed there, and I know that they've like debunked a lot of things of where to find Atlantis, and all we have to go off of is Plato's manuscripts, which half of it is lost to time, which is in this movie, which I find fascinating that they actually use Plato's manuscript here, and they can't read the rest of it because it's gone, and that's a true fact in history. And
burned in the fire of the Library of Alexandria.
Yep. So who knows? Who knows? But Atlantis is a fascinating subject, but also could be fabricated at the same time too. Andrew, where does this movie start and take place?
We're in Milo Thatch's place of residence, which is in some boiler room. And he is talking about, Atlantis to this seemingly large group of people, but it turns out it's a bunch of like stuffed animals with wigs on.
Yeah.
And
he's practicing a speech. Yeah.
Speech, yes. He's prepping because he's trying to pitch this idea that Atlantis is, worth exploring and worth trying to find. Right off the bat, we learn this guy's a major dork. He seems to be some sort of linguist / cartographer. He lives in a boiler room.
He's also like the janitor, I guess, or he's in charge of the boiler room is basically it. He's not even a janitor. He's just a boiler guy. I don't even know what you call him.
He makes sure their furnace is running. I wouldn't even call him a mechanic because it's literally he has to go like hit the tank or the barrel to make sure it's running. He's not even like, it's not even his expertise. But regardless, he looks at the clock and he's like, oh my God, I better get going. And then he gets a letter shot down the little chute in which he receives his mail that says, is it canceled or something like that? Or
they said that they've moved his meeting up. They send it to
That's
him
right.
after the
it was
time
like 2:30.
has passed. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, oh shit, I got to get going. And he runs upstairs and he's in some sort of like museum or it might be like the Smithsonian or something.
Yeah,
something adjacent. And it's a whole bunch of, well-to-do elitist men with mustaches and mutton chops and
fat and just obnoxious
hotels, and top hats, and they're like, oh, Mr. Thatch, it seems you've missed your opportunity. And he's like, no, please, no. And they clearly didn't want to fucking hear what he had to say. They were sick of it. They're like, no, we're gonna screw this poor kid over and move this up for another month.
They think it's like fantasy because they keep saying if I hear about Atlantis one more time, they're upset that he keeps talking about Atlantis. And in his which I enjoyed his little prep speech that he gave, but he thinks that people got the location wrong of the book of Atlantis, a book of the language and whatnot or something like that. I can't remember, but he thinks it's in Iceland. And
what an idiot!
Because the philosophers have switched something around. So he thinks the book is in Iceland that will reveal the location of Atlantis. And he's proficient in the Atlantic language. I don't know what you would actually call it. And I was like, how do you study an ancient language that is not translatable?
Well, he knows it. He's fluent, so don't question him too much.
I guess they have actual documented evidence of the language, but you're right. How would you know how to pronounce? I don't know. I mean, I know that there are people that study dead languages. It's how we know how ancient Egyptian sounded. But there's a point to which I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of evidence of ancient Egypt. There's zero evidence of Atlantis anywhere.
Yeah,
So.
we don't even know what that language would be. But the guy that created the Atlantean language in this movie actually created Klingon and most of the Star Trek languages. I don't know.
Yeah, the language then. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and
That's really neat.
Yeah, he actually did the language himself, and the way he wrote it, you read it from left to right on the first line, then right to left on the second line, left to right, right to left, and he wanted it to flow like water. Like the lost city of Atlantis is in water, encased in water. But cool fact there that the language was made up for this movie, obviously, and it was made up by a Star Trek guy.
That's pretty.
But what happens, Andrew? They don't take him seriously, right? And
Yeah.
And where does Milo find himself after that?
He goes back to his miserable. Does he go back to an apartment or something like? I don't know.
Apartment.
Where does he go? He goes back to the apartment or whatever in his boiler room, right? Is that where he goes?
Something like that.
It's his apartment, I think. And then he walks in, and then the light won't work, but there's a mysterious woman sitting down in a chair.
She's smoking too.
Yeah.
Like she's actually smoking a cigarette. I'm not commenting on her. Appearance.
And he goes,
You're not commenting on the animated figure's appearance.
As much as I'd like to. No.
It's fucking really disgraceful that you'd say that, Andrew. Disgrace.
She's smoking a cigarette and talking to Milo about his discovery of Atlantis, and she's working for somebody. And does she give him like a location for him to meet up?
She says that you have to meet me at this mansion, essentially, and that you'll find out more when you get there.
My boss doesn't like to wait, so fucking get there. Mr. Whitmore, Mr. Preston Whitmore is where he is being requested to the residence of.
And like she's talking like the boss is like a real pain in the ass. Like she's like putting him on a pedestal. She's like, you will not address him as this other than Mr. Whitmore, and you will not look him in the eye. You will not do this. And she gives like as he's going into the mansion, she's like prepping him for this like very stern figure that's going to be presented to him. And he's quite the opposite, isn't he, Andrew?
Yeah, he's this old, whimsical, goofy. Yeah, he's eccentric and definitely not intimidating in the least.
No, he's doing yoga poses when he gets in. He accidentally shakes his foot because he offers his foot instead of his hand to shake, and that's the whole like. But then he turns himself upside down to do like a handstand, and he's wearing a robe, and his robe falls down, so his pecker's just right out in front of Milo's face. And Milo goes, yeah, really dynamic.
He's a little jokester.
He's also like kind of like a free spirit, I would say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No way that I think this guy's a billionaire, though, the way that he presents himself.
Yeah, he's not a narco-capitalist, but he definitely has some money from his family that's been passed down for generations, and he uses it how he wants. So
old money, baby, old money.
Oh yeah.
We forgot to mention Milo has an obsession with his grandfather, who was an explorer. What would you call him? Like he is kind of like an animated version of Indiana Jones, and like almost looks like Theodore Roosevelt. But
yeah,
I think a Teddy Roosevelt is a good comparison, but add a little bit of Indy in there.
He probably fought the wars, probably, I would say, in Africa.
Yeah,
because he's constantly wearing a general's uniform,
like safari hat.
Yeah,
general's uniform with like a safari hat.
And Milo loves his grandfather. His grandfather talked about finding the city of Atlantis, a lost city of Atlantis, and his grandfather kind of felt like he knew where it was going to be and died before he could ever make headway in it. So Milo's kind of like falling in his grandfather's footsteps to try to find the lost city of Atlantis. And they have a long conversation. It's, this part of it is very whimsical, the way they're having the conversation. But Milo finds out that this guy went to school with his grandfather, and they ended up becoming business partners, and his grandfather kept talking about Atlantis and Atlantis and Atlantis, and he funded an expedition for Milo's grandfather, who ended up finding the book into Iceland. And so now he has the book, and he promised Milo's grandfather that he would fund an expedition if they found the book to go to find Atlantis. And Milo is the only one left that can read the Atlantean language. So he knows that he needs to decipher this book. I don't know what this dude has so much money, by the way. Like, my God.
That's enough to kind of lead us to the next part, which is he is like commissioned a whole fleet. And again, this is like 1910, 1920s era, like a whole fleet of submersible craft which have not existed ever on the face of the earth.
With his own military on payroll.
Yeah, he's got his own, what do they call them, Andrew? Contractors. Like, he's got his own contractors that are
hired hands.
Mercenaries.
Hired hands that are very much like have probably fought in World War One. They probably have shell shock.
Yeah, I mean, half of them probably
will fight
in the Civil War.
Yeah, or will fight, yeah. But they have like a giant, like a massive submarine with a glass dome in the front, which I thought was cool and clever because that'd pretty much be the only way you could make that structurally sound. But even then, it wouldn't work because they go to like massive depths and it would have been crushed. But they have that.
This ship is the only ship of its kind in existence. Like, it was specifically like handcrafted and built for this expedition with Whitmore's money.
This is a lot of steampunk style stuff. Like, the technology that they're using to get to where they're going is very much like not technology that could have even possibly existed at the time. And I do appreciate that part of it. Like, you're existing in this other world. It's how Wild Wild West should have been. So this movie's already taken down Avatar and Wild Wild West with how those two movies kind of failed, in my opinion. But anyway, moving forward.
Fuck Wild Wild West.
Not trying to create more enemies here, but Milo gets the book. He starts reading through it, and we're meeting this cast of characters, which got some legendary names into it. And I'll start with Cookie, who's the cook on the crew. And the reason I mention him is because he's a Lexington, Kentucky native, right, Andrew?
Good old Jim Varney.
Jim Varney.
Yep. That's Ernest for all those who didn't know.
How did you feel hearing Jim Varney's voice one more time in this?
Oh, it made me happy. Made me so happy.
This was his last role. He died actually.
He died shortly.
There's actually
he died before it premiered, didn't it?
He died before. He didn't even finish it. So this movie even has one line in it that they had to get someone else to do the line that Cookie says. He's like, I'm not much in all this speechifying. I think he says that at the end of the movie. That's actually not Jim Varney. Everything else is Jim Varney because he died while they were making this movie, and then they dedicated the movie to him. So this is Jim Varney's last role, and I thought he did a good job as Cookie, but, I mean, it's still kind of rinse and repeat for Jim Varney in that era. Like, Slinky Dog, Cookie, they're kind of a similar character.
He was very much a character actor in, like, the truest sense, and this was no different. But his voice is recognizable, and it brought a smile on my face, to say the least.
And we got another person who makes their second appearance on this show.
Wait, a second? What do you mean a second appearance?
A second appearance. So we watched a movie, and not this past October, but in October before that. Our first Halloween, we did Casper. Remember Casper?
Yes.
Do you remember the priest?
Was that? Yeah, I remember the priest, but I don't remember him being anyone of note.
He was the demolition expert, Vinny. And
no way!
The funniest character in the movie, and absolutely killed me every time he said something.
Don Novello.
Yeah, the deadpan humor in this movie from this demolition expert. Even if you can go online YouTube, if you guys do not want to watch Atlantis, I'm telling you, it is worth it just to find a compilation of this dude's lines in this movie. They made me laugh. I don't know if you guys found the same thing.
I thought he was hilarious because his delivery was so dry, and sometimes he was kind of dark and didn't give a shit. He was very funny. And
he delivers his first line like I'll get to it in just a few minutes because we're gonna get to that scene, but he's smart ass demolitions expert, but that's that character. And then we got a mole character that's very I didn't really get very well. He's like
he's the digger.
He's the digger. He's like a human mole. It's because
he's also French and kind of disliked by everyone.
And autistic.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a French character, just like by everybody. Sounds about right.
Yeah, you're right.
So we got that character. We got the Doc, who looks like a NFL linebacker playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. Really built guy. What did they call him? Did they just call him Doc?
He's Dr. Sweet. Or they just call him Sweet.
Yeah, he kind of keeps the mole character in check. And
his name Sweet is who he was as a character too. Like he was very likable and like very enigmatic.
He's the only one that actually takes to Milo. Like everyone else is like, for whatever reason, being assholes to Milo because they think he's kind of useless and they think that he's leading them on a wild goose chase. And then there's two main characters on this expedition. There's like kind of the commander, and he's played by another famous voice, and it's slipping me.
James Garner.
That's it.
Rockford Files.
Yeah.
Very famous actor. I mean, he's been tons of stuff, but like you look up James Garner, you recognize that face right away. I mean, he's no longer with us, sadly. He died in 2014, but he was a legendary face of the screen back in the day. So.
And he plays this commander, and he's got I guess second in command, and I forgot the girl's name because she's barely in this movie at all.
Was it Helga?
Something like that.
She's the one who was in his place of residence smoking the cigarette.
Yeah, she is in the very beginning of this movie, sets herself up, and then it just goes by the wayside a little bit. And then you have a mechanic. What was her name?
She was from like New York. Like she was supposed to be like Audrey. She's supposed to be like Dominican or something, or like Puerto Rican, something of that area, I should say. But Audrey was her name.
And she's the mechanic. So you got a demolitions expert, you got a digger, a mechanic, two commanders. Milo's like your historian / intelligence, I guess you would say, for this expedition. And so they're piling in the submarine. They're getting ready to go. There is a scene too where Whitman is watching them leave. And I don't know if you guys caught this, and I watched it the second time, but as they're shoveling off into the abyss, he has his fingers crossed behind his back.
Oh.
I did not catch that.
I caught it this go-around because I kind of knew where this movie was going because I've seen it before. The camera catches it, and he's got both hands behind his back, and he crosses his fingers. I love when movies, and especially animated movies, kind of do that. They kind of like plot the seeds forward, and if you have the eagle eye or you watch it again, you can kind of catch these little moments. But they go off, and the first thing that happens is they're kind of in the deep sea, and they're looking at Milo, trying to get directions from the book, and he's reading through it, and he's kind of studying it. So any chance of downtime where the crew's kind of like kicking it and like eating or whatever, he's over there just writing away, trying to transcribe this book. And this is one of the first lines we get from the demolitions guy, Vinny, that made me laugh, is they're like seeing on radar this like massive creature. It's almost like a leviathan. It is a leviathan, isn't it?
Yes.
And
it's the leviathan, but it's a little fabricated, or they kind of made it their own thing.
Yeah, it's not like the leviathan that we have become accustomed to. But Milo's like reading the book. He's like, yeah, the leviathan guards the gates of Atlantis. And so as this thing's swimming around, the demolitions expert goes, that's the kind of thing I would pair with a white wine. And it just comes out of nowhere, and it just floored me. Like, I found it hilarious. I'm sure that no one listening to this episode would find that hilarious, but it is really funny.
Yeah, Chase, you're a rube. That's not funny at all, and your sense of humor is fucked.
Probably. It's all the YouTube shorts these days. It's really corrupted me as an individual. But, Andrew, what happens after the Leviathan shows up?
I mean, like, they lose, like, more than half their crew.
Basically destroys the entire ship. Dude,
yeah, pretty much.
Like, they have to get out in escape pods, and I was like, we are 5 minutes into the expedition, and we've already, like, had catastrophic loss of life.
I would say they lost 90% of their crew. They had the main characters that, of course, all made it, and then they have like 3 or 4, like, I don't know, do you call them goons? I don't know what you call them. Like, maybe like 4 or 5, like, hired mercenary soldiers that have no names and like no faces. That's it. Those are the only
they're wearing
people
the
that
World
make it.
War One gas mask too, like the
Yes,
nameless
yes.
soldiers, which I found very weird. It was like a weird choice, like I guess like they didn't want to just animate a bunch of random faces. I don't know, like to save time that they can use the same animations. I don't know.
Well, they did their faces up vaguely, like when they all were like sending the candle off, like to remember everybody after they got stranded. But after that, they were all gas masked up.
Yeah, and to Kyle's point, they get stranded, they lose everything, but somehow they keep producing equipment. I don't know if Andrew you picked that up. Like they keep like the digger survived somehow because I didn't. They were in like small escape pods, but the digger's still there.
So they were all in those. They weren't escape pods. They were like vessels, like just little. Like there was a mothership, and then those were the other vessels that they used to get around. So just think of it as like extensions of the mothership. Like so,
Okay.
they just had like drop ships essentially, with like a bunch of equipment ready to go, and they just so happened to pick up the one with the digger and a couple of cars in it, and that's what they took out onto the land.
And they find land, and there's a montage of Milo reading and navigating them through these tunnels and these caves to try to get to Atlantis. And there's one part where there's this huge pillar, and Milo's like just falling in love with the architecture of it and the sculpting. And he's like, it must have took them thousands of years to make this. And at that point, Vinny just blows it up and it falls down and makes a bridge. He's like, look, I made a bridge. Took me, 5 minutes? He's just being a deadpan asshole. But all this navigating, these like montages, and then there's a final moment too where Milo, they're finally asking him to come eat with them. And it's the first time that they've kind of started to accept him. They start like some of the characters start noticing like he's a good dude. He's a little dorky, but he's good-willed and has a big heart. Would you guys say that like Milo doesn't have a lot of faults other than just his clumsiness and his dorkiness?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, pretty much.
But what happens now, Andrew? Now that he's kind of starting to get accepted, and what happens to the group then?
They set up camp, and Milo like sees some people or things
they
aren't
set up
connected to their camp.
Yeah, don't they set up camp near a big lantern, a blue lantern or something like that? Yeah. Where Vinny's like, that thing's gonna keep me up all night. And it was like this giant lantern that they thought like was leading them to Atlantis, or that they were close.
Yeah, it was some like ethereal, mystical light that looked like it almost looked like it was like within like a snow globe type thing. I could be wrong. I did watch this like 2 weeks ago, or was it just 10 days ago? I don't fucking remember. But yeah, there was some sort of like ever glowing ethereal light in this cavern, and that was their light, right? Yeah. Like it was just their night light.
Like they're using that power source. You come to find out later on that every light that they have is through a power source, a crystal. But to your point, he sees these individuals with these kind of tribal mask on, like watching the group, and Milo runs after him. And what happens when he runs after him?
They don't abduct him, or do they?
No, they don't. They
Kyle, you're fresher than me. What happens?
They after him. He runs after the people that as they're trying to escape, the mysterious people. But then some kind of like chase. What do they get a hold of? That there's like something they bust open, and all these like firefight looking things come out, but they actually set everything on fire. All their tents.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then
about that, yeah, because they.
So then that drives them to go over the bridge. The bridge collapses, and then they have to burrow through something. And once they do, they actually get to Atlantis. But when they get there, everybody takes a second. You're like, oh my God, it's Atlantis. But then those same people drop down and confront them. They have a whole confrontation, to which Milo starts speaking Atlantean, and then they start speaking something else, and all of a sudden they just start speaking French, because apparently she knows French and they know French, so they start speaking French. It was kind of weird.
And then she starts speaking English.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
they,
like, how did you know all these languages that came well after your society?
but when Milo first encountered those people, though, before all this stuff happened, he had a cut on his shoulder that the main character Kika took this little like crystal she had on her necklace and kind of shone it over there and put her hand on it, and it healed his cut.
Yes.
So something.
Yeah, and just revealing the power of their power source and what it was capable of, which Atlantis is known to be not only a city of lost treasure, but apparently, according to Plato, a lost city of unbelievable power and almost in a spiritual kind of way that was written in history books. And that's kind of how I'm sure it was more metaphorical than anything, but we've taken it out of context or in context, I'm not sure, but like we've taken it over the years, and people like think Atlantis was like almost like an alien empire in that time period. That's the folklore behind it, and they're living in that theory in this movie where we skipped over this. So at the beginning of the movie, we do see Atlantis when it was thriving. I know we kind of jumped right to Milo giving his presentation, but there's a scene where Atlantis is being capsized by water, and all the people are running in this chaos, and you see this mother and daughter, and they're running, and then the mother is kind of lifted up into like the heavens by this power source, and that's going to come back into play later. But the girl, the main character here, is thrilled that they're there, and she thinks that they could help because the people in Atlantis are living in ruins, even though they're miraculous ruins and they have this miraculous power. I don't know how bad they're actually doing.
Not very bad at all.
Honestly, their little setup reminded me of like what the Aztecs had. Like it was like an island in the midst of this like sparkling oasis and all sorts of like cool technology and aqueducts, and I don't know. I wonder if they pulled from the supposed of what was the main city that the Aztecs had, Kyle? You know what it was, right? Or was that the lake?
All right, there are Chichen Itza, I think.
There's a little bit of El Dorado too in it. Like,
yes, 100%.
Yeah, I would say a lot of El Dorado, like the Disney movie, and also like kind of like the lost
city of El Dorado.
Yeah, it's very interesting, I would say.
And but what happens now, Kyle? Now that they're there, I think that they're trying to get Milo to help them, especially because Milo has the book, and the book they've lost. So now they have an ancient text.
So they start ingratiating themselves with each other, very much like they're trying to, like he's trying to enrich himself in the culture and figure out what's going on. But you can tell that the people, what's the two? The chick and the guy with the fingers crossed. What's their names?
Mr. Asshole and Mrs. Asshole.
Mr. and Mrs. Asshole. You can tell that they're cooking something up. They're not being truly like forthcoming. But while Milo's essentially like touring the Atlantean like ruins or like living spaces and like getting to know the culture at this point. And you can tell that like they're becoming friends, him and Kika.
He's falling for her. I think it goes beyond the friends line, but yeah, they're making a strong connection, to say the least.
Yes, but this is all predicated on trust that they have with each other, but I don't think they know that they're about to be double crossed. Both Milo and Kika don't know that they're going to be double crossed by Mr. and Mrs. Asshole. And you see a couple of shots of like the soldiers getting armed all of a sudden at night.
The unnamed soldiers are about to basically turn on the entire Atlantean people for their power and their riches. That's what drives everyone in this world, apparently, is money and greed.
And we should say mythical power, too. It's not just strength power. It is mythical, magical, unexplainable power.
Supernatural, like healing power. There's points where Milo is running around with, what's her name again?
Kika.
Yeah. And so he's running around with her, and he's reading everything because she doesn't know how to read.
She doesn't know her own language.
Yeah, she knows how to speak it. She just doesn't know how to read it.
None of them do, actually, which I
Yeah.
thought was an interesting twist,
I thought
but
it was stupid.
none of them do.
I thought it was stupid. You tell me that's the only book that the Atlanteans had written, and that's the only book that had survived, and that they just
That his grandfather happened to, or his grandfather's
find in
friend happened to
Iceland
come. Yeah,
at a fish market
whatever.
in Iceland.
Whatever.
So, yeah, that didn't make any sense. That was really dumb. So he's reading this book to her, teaching her about her ancestral upbringing, and he's showing her how to use the crystal. And the crystal can power everything. So there's these old vehicles that are just laying everywhere, like a redneck trailer park where there's just old Chevelles just sitting there with no engine in it. And he shows her how to just put the crystal in and turn and use the vehicle. So now that they have all these vehicles and stuff, and just kind of,
this is because he can read the insignia on these vehicles.
Again,
That's
dumb,
really dumb.
Yeah, because her dad is alive, the ruler of Atlantis, and they're all ancient. They're all he looks old, but he's he's 900 or something like that because of the way that the power has aged people or something stupid like that. But so this again doesn't make any sense because he was around when we find out that the woman at the beginning of the movie that was sent up into the heavens was Kika's mother. And she was an old enough child to be able to read. I don't know. We're going through a rabbit hole here. But it makes no sense that they can't read their own language and they need this white man to come in and teach them the error of their ways.
I love it.
Make it make sense.
White man saves the day. Tale as old as time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
So what happens next, Andrew? Now that we've got the double cross, what's going down?
A little fuzzy, but I remember they were in the water, and then they get essentially accosted by Mr. and Mrs. Asshole and the entire crew, and they've got weapons. They're like, "Yeah, put them up. We got you covered now. We're gonna take you back with us, Kita. You're ours." And Milo's like, "No, what, this is for purely scholastic reasons. What are you doing? No. Am I right? Is that what's happening now?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And something happens with Kita at this point because the Atlantis world and the ethereal being that kind of surrounds the aura of Atlantis senses something that is wrong. And I believe that crystal that she's wearing takes her out of her own body. It overpowers her, and she becomes some overseer, protector, if you will. Am I right? Is that what happens at this point?
Yeah, possessed god kind of status.
Yeah, and her body is magnetically drawn to the center of Atlantis, where the bad people, the crew, thinks they're going to find some sort of treasure, right? And it's underneath her dad's throne, I believe. And it's just some deep cellar. It's not even really a cellar. It's a giant cave that feels bottomless. But it does get to an ending, if you will. And I'm getting fuzzy here. So if someone else wants to take over what happens next. But they're led to this area. At this point, said that the crystal overtook Kita. And it's at this point that the king kind of reveals that Atlantis was devastated by a mega tsunami after he attempted to weaponize the crystal's vast powers.
And the gods had punished Atlantis, which is actually part of the Plato text, is that Atlantis was punished by the gods.
For sheer pride and hubris, if you will. But the crystal can sense when it's, aimed or someone's jonesing to use it for the wrong purposes. So that's why it's merged with Kita as a defense mechanism, as I said.
And all the crystals are coming from what they call the heart of Atlantis that Milo that merged with Kita. Is she gets merged with the heart of Atlantis and not just the crystal itself. It's a big crystal, but it's the power goes to all the other crystals that it's getting weird now that everyone else wears around their neck.
Yeah. And forgive me, but when they go into that deep cavern underneath the king's throne, that is when she gets joined with the crystal. Like her body is like elevated up to this, again, this bright ethereal light that's surrounded by rocks. It kind of looks like a larger, like Stonehenge. It's like floating around this light, and that is when she is joined with the crystal and becomes that protector of the city,
which happened to her mother at the beginning.
Happened to her mother. Yep. So, when the tsunami hit, her mother became the protector of Atlantis, and that giant dome, or it's almost like a globe, literally engulfs and captures the entire city as the water overtook it. But yeah, at this point, the king's dying. Kida is in a trance, and they put her in like a cage. Rourke and the other asshole Helga put her in a cage, and they're heading out. They've got what they need. They're gonna make millions on this discovery, take it back up to land.
And the reason that all this happened too is the king did not want it to happen to his daughter like it happened to his wife, because his wife never returned. So
yes.
I want to make mention of that, because the reason that Atlantis got to where it was like suffering was because he hid the heart of Atlantis in the cavern. And so the power was hidden, and it was hidden by these stone like structures and like these faces, like almost like Easter Island faces. And so by hiding the crystal, he was like jeopardizing Atlantis just to save his own daughter. Very selfish. You can't do that if you're going to be in power.
Can't do that.
But if it saved his daughter for 900 years, it may not have been the worst
she looked
thing.
Great for 900 too.
Oh yeah, she did. Oh boy.
Great.
All right, Andrew.
God.
Sorry, I had to pile on.
Oh shit.
I did.
She wasn't even smoking a cigarette.
No, she wasn't.
And then I think the king is mortally wounded. He's like trying to get Milo to save his daughter from Rourke and his team.
But the crew has completely turned their back on the Atlantean people, and now they're off, like I said, to take this Kida individual who's overcome with the power of Atlantis up to the surface and, I don't know, sell her. Sell whatever it is for the major profit.
And as the crew is starting to walk away, Milo starts pleading with them and starts talking them into turning their back on Rourke. So, like...
Yeah, he guilt trips the hell out of him.
Yeah, because he uses information he learned during the cookout scene earlier where they started bonding. Like, he learns that Vinny had a flower shop in France, right? Or Russia?
Wasn't it Italy?
Or somewhere like that. I think, yeah.
It's Italy.
Has a flower shop and learns all that, and he was like, is this what you're going to do? You're going to go buy another flower shop? And he guilt trips everybody, and they all turn their back on Rourke, so the double cross gets double crossed, and they end up helping Milo. But Rourke has his own army with him. Those guys stay, and they all end up at an active volcano.
Yes.
And they have basically an aerial fight, like a dog fight.
It's a pretty epic brawl.
Yes, because Milo teaches all the Atlanteans to use their crystals to use the flying machines.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a dogfight in the active volcano. It's very, to Andrew's point, really epic.
And there's like a giant like hot air balloon too, in which like they kind of walk on like the tight wire and like punch and shoot at each other.
Yes.
It's high stakes.
And stuff is exploding everywhere. And it's a pretty long scene, or at least long in this movie. And during all the melees and everything, the hot air balloon gets it takes a bullet hits it or something hits it, and it's starting to go down, and they need to loosen weight. So then Rourke turns his back on Mrs. Asshole and throws her off the hot air balloon, and she falls like, how many feet, Andrew? Like hundreds of feet?
She didn't die, which was astounding. But
she wasn't even knocked unconscious. She was just like...
She landed on her ass, her rather large ass, and like groaned and got up and like menacingly looked up at Rourke.
Well, and then she hits the hot air balloon with a flare and takes the hot air. So he threw her off. It should have killed her. Doesn't she die, or does she walk away?
So she walks away, but like it's kind of assumed that she dies because she doesn't go back with the rest of the crew. Or maybe her fall, it just wasn't said. She suffered major internal bleeding
She
and
had to have.
that was it.
That's a Disney movie, all right. It's implied that she suffered heavy internal bleeding and died from her wounds.
Yes.
I mean, she had to have. Like, there's no like it should have killed her instantly. That was not a 30-foot fall. That was she was high up because they were almost
hundreds and hundreds of feet.
They were almost out of the volcano.
200 feet.
Yeah, they were almost out of the volcano. I mean, her bones would have been shattered.
We didn't get a strong goodbye for her, but we did get one for Rourke, which was satisfying, I guess.
Yeah, tell the people at home how Rourke died, Andrew.
He got hit with the blue beam that was coming from Kita's crystal. Isn't that what it was?
Yep.
There was some sort of and it like essentially like froze his body, and then he like shattered into like a million pieces.
Right, and you could see the crystal like going through his body. It was pretty graphic for a kid.
Yes, it was satisfying though because he was a piece of shit and deserved it.
Right.
But yeah, he was frozen to death and then exploded into a million little particles of ice or whatever frozen entity it was.
And we're not done yet because the volcano is erupting, which is the gods punishing Atlantis again. But they make it back to Atlantis, and Kita uses the heart of Atlantis because she is the heart of Atlantis, and these stone creatures come up from I don't know.
Yeah, it reminded me of like the
Galacticus from like Marvel comics.
In the last Harry Potter movie, they summon.
Oh, you're out nerding me.
These stone guardians of the castle, and they literally stand on the edge of Hogwarts, and they put up this dome that couldn't be penetrated. And they were similar. I think these were more medieval looking in Harry Potter, but they were big, like stone, like gargoyles or knights. And it was kind of like that. But the ones here in Atlantis looked a little more Easter Islandish, if you will.
And they basically create a force field around Atlantis and stop all
field. There you go.
All the magma from hitting the city. So they protect the city kind of like they did in the beginning from the flood. They're just protecting it from lava now. And
instead of water.
And everyone's saved. And they restore the heart of Atlantis. And Kita like is fine now. She's not going to serve the same fate as her mother, which I don't get. Like why she wouldn't serve the same fate of her mother and just be a sacrificial lamb. But
true love.
Who am I to judge? So
you didn't write this movie, Chase. Come on.
She's fine. Milo's fine. The rest of the crew's fine. Atlantis is fine. It's kind of like that. It is a kids' movie. We have to have kind of a villains get their just desserts. No one dies. Everyone's okay.
Well, the king dies.
Yeah, the king dies. He gets mortally wounded. He ends up dying and kind of puts on his blessing to Milo and his daughter and says his goodbyes. And then we're kind of wrapping up this movie pretty quickly, but Milo doesn't go back with the crew. The crew, I don't know how they even still have equipment to get back at this point. I don't know if Kyle can explain that because, like, if I'm not mistaken, everything is blown up or, what do they have? The digger is still left, but, like, they used a submarine to get all the way to Atlantis. Like, how are they going to get back?
We can accept the fact that they have a crystal that magically heals and like levitates and creates powers. I think we can. It's not that much of an extrapolation to go ahead and say they made their way back to the surface. It's fine.
Yeah, Kita does give them all a crystal for their service, so they all get this ancient power, which is good to give a bunch of people just to take back to the surface. Is just ancient power. And Milo decides he's going to stay in Atlantis, which I think is a good thing to do. I would stay there.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a place on
Was he going to go back to the boiler room?
He mmade his identity obsessing about Atlantis. He might as well keep his ass there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like go back to his boiler room life, like because there's no
fuck that.
Because they make the decision, the crew, to not tell people they made it to Atlantis. They don't want to ruin those people's lives.
They're not going to out them. They're not going to out them. They're not going to let the world in on the secret. So
yeah, which would take the financing to do that mission again would be astronomical. But they make it back, and Milo gets a nice shoulder tattoo. and he, I guess, marries Keita, and they live happily ever after. The crew makes it back, and they're all wealthy, and they're talking to Whitman, and he was not a part of the double cross. Like I thought,
No, he wasn't.
I thought at the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, he double crosses them, and I was like, no, he doesn't. He just sent them. He didn't think that they would double cross him. But he's talking with the crew, and they're making up their story on Milo dying in the expedition and all the other people dying as well. And they were just going to say it was just a massive failure. And that about wraps it up, right? Am I missing anything?
No, I think it comes to a succinct end there, and Milo lives his life, we assume, happily in Atlantis, probably not for 700 years, maybe for another 60 or 50, depending on how old he is. And,
He's got the crystal now. He's probably going to live for eternity.
Yeah, maybe they pump him full of that shit. Who knows? I don't know. We don't get to that. So,
Andrew, I'm going to start with you. What did you think of this movie as an adult versus your childhood?
So, like I said, I remember it being a little bit more mature when I was younger. I think the double cross really got me when I was a kid for whatever reason. Like, it really upset me. And my 8-year-old self just didn't love it. But I never disliked the movie. It just wasn't one of those that, stuck with me forever. But I enjoyed the watch as an adult. It was entertaining. Whimsical enough, but not too whimsical. It was, like I said, it was entertaining. It was a good watch. I didn't feel myself drifting off and not paying attention. I was in the moment. It brought me back to that time of Disney animation that is very specific. And it was not a waste of an hour and 42 minutes, or however long the movie was. So it was a good watch, and I very much enjoyed my time with it.
It was a quick hour 42, too. It felt like it just kind of flew by.
It did its job. It didn't linger. It got from one point to the next, and that was it.
Yeah. Kyle, what did you think?
The animation style alone was done just very well done, especially for this time period. And you can tell the money they put into it paid off, because this is very good visual effects for an animated film for like 2000s. It hits on everything it needs to hit on. It uses the time frame that it's in very well. Like, I thought, like, almost like I don't want to call it the costume designs. They're not real costumes, but for lack of a better word, the overall aesthetic fits with 1905 to 1915 pre-World War I era. And it really kind of like it scratches that itch of, like, industrialization mixed with, like, fantastic myths of legend, as well as, like, the voice acting is very well done. I think all of it is just, it's a very fun movie altogether. It doesn't take itself too terribly seriously, but I think it has a good message about as Ian Malcolm would say, what you call progress, I call the rape of the natural world. I think fits here pretty well. Very almost Jurassic Park kind of message. Just because you build it, or just because you discover it, doesn't mean it's yours, and doesn't mean that you should use it. So overall, like, I really enjoyed it. Very good.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, more than I thought I would, honestly. When I started watching this, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to get into this. And it captured me. I think the beginning of it was a lot more fun. I love folklore and history and mythology and all that stuff. And so them just making Atlantis out into this whimsical story is how our stories get told. So I enjoyed the first half of the movie a lot more than the second half when they actually landed in Atlantis. But there's enough comedy here, too. It was really funny. And I don't really laugh at a lot of these, like, kids' movies that we watch. Not saying that they're bad movies, but the comedy and the timing of it was... It really actually made me laugh several times. And it may not for other people, but I found it funny. The voice acting's really well done here. Michael J. Fox it's always an amazing thing to hear Michael J. Fox's voice. And the movie didn't really date itself. It felt like not in its political terms or the way that, like, certain people are treated. Like those kind of things happen in a lot of animated or movies from the 90s, 2000s. It's just part of it. It didn't really do that here. It kind of stands on its own, and I think it's kind of like more timeless that way. but thoroughly enjoyed it. It's weird not to see a Disney animated movie around that time and not hear any song numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That threw
Good
me
point.
off.
Very good point.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a positive or a negative for this one.
I would say it's a positive for adults watching it.
Yes.
And for those of us that have something more to watch than just some vocal acrobatics, I think that it is a negative for how the film released and what people might have been expecting from it. It's a Disney movie. It's an animated Disney movie. It's kind of like, well, there should be music. This is right around the time Tarzan came out. So I think El Dorado. I don't know if El Dorado had a soundtrack to it. I don't remember.
It had a soundtrack. There was
there was.
music that Road to El Dorado, and there were some good songs.
And El Dorado was the year after this too, which is interesting because then you go from Atlantis to El Dorado. It almost feels like a sequel because you're talking about two lost ancient empires.
Yep. I'll say that the music might have been a negative for it at the time, but the fact that it was still able to be a great product without it, that says a lot about the movie, in my opinion.
I think it's a really good point that Andrew just made. Like, this is a very good movie that stands alone without the show or the catchiness of a tune to be put in there, which I think cheapens some of those stories to a certain degree. And I think that it's definitely something that I don't appreciate about the musicals of Disney, is because it is like, you have to be into that kind of thing. I love music. I studied music for a long time. I do not like Disney musicals, and I don't like a lot of the songs that are in them. I think they're catchy to be catchy and not really like having a deeper meaning to it. They over romanticize relationships and particularly set up men and women, young men and women, for like disappointment from what relationships are actually like. And I think that this is a movie that has morals, and it goes over what being a moral person is and what that entails and sacrifice. And I think, Andrew, that was a really good point. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, this movie didn't have the Alan Menken touch, and yet it still is what it is, and it withstands time. So
yeah, and I agree with you, Kyle, too, because I think a lot of that music is just more nostalgia factor. Because how many times do you hear a Disney musical number and it's just fun to sing along to just because you remember it from being a kid, but not like really what it meant in the story that you watched it from?
I want to fight that just a little bit. There are some Disney musicals where I'm like, all right, I could, but there are a few that I genuinely like. Like, it's not something I'm going to go listen to while I'm working. I'm not going to pull it up on Spotify and throw it on.
I've worked out to the Hercules soundtrack before. I'm not afraid to admit it. I've never done that. I'm not afraid to admit it.
I will burst into song randomly. I'll sing "Let's Get Down to Business" from Mulan, just without cue, randomly. Like, some of those songs and movie musicals, I think it's really good music. I do say that. I do believe that. Some not so much, but there are some that I'll never not. May not be like my cup of tea, may not be my thing that I'm going to listen to, like I said, every day, but I'm still going to respect it for what it is. So that's where I differ. But I do agree there are some that's just a little too much. And, like I said, Atlantis didn't have any of that, though. So, again, more testament to the movie itself and what it presents.
And what's crazy, too, is I did read where the animators had shirts that they wore every day while they were working on this that said, "Less music, more explosions." Because at the beginning of their pitch meeting, the Disney executives were like, "This is not our typical musical. We're going to go more action-adventure for this animated film." And it was at a time where if Disney released an animated film, there was music in it. And I agree with you, Kyle. I think that's a good point on like maybe why the movie didn't do so well is because a lot of people were expecting it.
Yeah, it's in that that was really unprecedented at this time to have a movie that didn't have a lot of song and dance in it. I'm sure we could find a couple examples, but I can't think of a lot. Andrew would be our resident Disney person or animated feature person, I would say, for this, but I can't think of any that have song and dance.
You'd have to go into the Pixar realm, but even those had great soundtracks. Like Monsters Inc. and Toy Story had Randy Newman. Like, I mean, most of them had some sort of music touch to them because you remember the Toy Story songs. You remember the Monsters Inc. intro.
Phil Collins at Tarzan.
Phil Collins and Tarzan. Yes, thank you. There really weren't many Disney movies that didn't have some sort of a musical wash to it or a musical touch, if you will. This is really the only one that I can think of that deviates from that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. And who knows, maybe if it had musical numbers, more people will remember it fondly. Because, again, we talked about this one and kind of got lost to time. Like the actual city of Atlantis.
Yes, but I think that's what kind of makes it special is it may have gotten lost, but it's one that you could pull out. It's been sitting on your bookshelf or your entertainment shelf. And it's a little bit dusty.
Your Disney streaming service.
Exactly. You're going to enjoy it. Like, it'll be a pleasant surprise for you. If you haven't seen it in years, you put this on, you watch it, you won't feel like you've wasted any time doing so.
Andrew, does it hold up?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Kyle, does it hold up?
Yeah, unequivocally, yes, I would say.
Yeah, I think this is one of the better animated Disney movies we watched, which I don't think we've watched very many, but
we haven't.
To compare it to, like, what was the last one we did?
Great Mouse Detective.
Great Mouse Detective. I'd rather watch this over Great Mouse Detective.
Would you rather watch it over 8 Crazy Nights?
Yes.
Yes,
yeah,
easily.
1,000%.
Easily.
I forgot we did 8 Crazy Nights because I didn't put that in the same category, and it's not in the same category. But
well, wasn't that just me and you? Didn't Kyle set that one out too?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our memory
shot. I recorded
that. That was like 2 months ago. No,
that was before
Christmas.
Ago,
yeah. Or
it was only about a month ago.
Yeah, when we recorded it.
No, it was a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
A month and a half ago, because it was like December 16th or 17th or something like that.
Yeah, and it's all like lost to time at this point. So let's look at IMDb scores. Kyle, what would you give this as an IMDb score?
Oh, I would give this an easy. I'm going to be very generous and give it a 7.1, which I'm sure is not what they gave it on IMDb. But I'm gonna say for me, I would give it a 7.1.
Yeah,
it's a great movie.
Fair. Yeah. Andrew?
Kyle took my number, so I'll say 7.2.
Okay, I'm fluctuating between a 6.8 and a 7.0 even. Can't do even number. Let's just 6.9.
Do 6.9. 6.9. There you go.
6.9. We'll do 6.9.
Smoking.
Smoking
6.9.
On the higher end of the 6.9. I thought it was
really good. Guess what
it
is on IMDb? Guess what it is?
It's probably in the
6. I'm going to say 6.5.
It's 6.9.
Really?
It's 6.9. Chase won. Chase beat us. That's it, Kyle. We're done.
Yeah,
we did actually. Canceled. We can't. Yeah, we can't really try anymore. Actually, after that.
No, that we literally can't talk about if anything ever holds up or give it any kind of rating. He just ended. He ended us.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
is that a retirement?
Yeah, I think so. I think the podcast is done actually because we're not going to be able to discuss whether things hold up anymore. So.
I think that this is one of the times that we've aligned with IMDb.
Yeah. Usually.
Yeah, I mean, this is the closest we've been. Usually, there's one of us who kind of dissents pretty majorly. Maybe there's one that's close and one that's kind of But here we were all within 3.
There's always somebody that's too high, somebody's too low, and someone who is just way off altogether.
Yeah.
But overall, I really enjoyed it. There was some things that could have been better about it. But again, there's a lot. I give it a lot of grace with being a kids movie. I give every kids movie we watch a little bit more grace than I actually would with a standard film because it is going to a younger audience. But I actually had a great time with this movie. That about wraps it up. You know what we do here? We reach into your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they hold up. Today we pulled out Atlantis: The Lost Empire. We found The Lost Empire, and it's amazing, and you should go watch that movie. We think it holds up really well. Andrew, it's a big one next week, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You want to tell the folks at home what we got? Because I think this one's been well requested since the start of this show.
We are finally going to watch Land Before Time. And I can't wait. Cannot wait for this.
We want to talk about a gut punch of a movie.
I remember the beginning. And that's really about it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
A little bit before our time, too. 80s.
Yes. 89, 88, something like that. Yeah.
But all the 90s kids watched it. We've gotten this one requested the most out of any animated film that we've thought about doing. So it's high time that we hit Land Before Time with Animation Month, and that is coming your way next Thursday. In the meantime, you can always follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We will have some guest hosts coming your way as well, some with actual expertise. Can you believe that, Andrew? Not just like our jack-off friends.
No, I cannot believe that, and I won't believe it until I'm experiencing it. So.
Okay. Well, we'll experience it soon. So we hope everyone has a great, wonderful day. Please go watch Atlantis, and we'll see you next time for The Land Before Time.
Fuck off, everybody.